Imagine a world forever changed, a conflict so vast that it engulfed nations and shaped the future. World War I, a war that redefined the boundaries, ideologies, and the very nature of war. But amid the echoes of battles and whispers of diplomacy, one question rests in the annals of history. Why did Germany, a nation of extraordinary power and strategy, face defeat in this global conflict? World War I lasted for long years, engulfing nations and continents, resulting in millions of casualties and monumental changes in global power dynamics. But the complicated web of causes that led to Germany's sudden fall are still to be discussed. Before we delve into the intricacies of Germany's loss in World War I, it's crucial to understand the political and military landscape of Europe that set the stage for this global conflict. The early 20th century in Europe was a time of burgeoning nationalism, imperial ambitions, and complex alliances. The continent was a chessboard of empires, each vying for power and prestige. Central to this pre-war landscape were two formidable alliances. The Triple Entente, comprising France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, stood as a powerful coalition. In opposition, the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, though Italy's allegiance would later shift. These alliances were not mere diplomatic agreements but networks of mutual defense pacts. They ensured that a conflict involving one member could easily escalate into a broader war. The significance of these alliances for Germany was profound. Encircled by potential adversaries, German military strategy heavily relied on the Schlieffen Plan. This plan aimed to prevent a two-front war by swiftly defeating France before redirecting forces to face Russia. Such a strategy highlighted Germany's precarious geopolitical situation. Key figures in the German leadership were instrumental in shaping the nation's wartime policies. Kaiser Wilhelm II, the German emperor, embodied intense nationalism and a thirst for imperial expansion. His leadership style was marked by erratic decisions and an aggressive foreign policy stance. The military strategies and tactics of the German leadership at the beginning of the First World War. The German High Command, under the leadership of figures such as Chief of Staff Helmuth von Moltke the Younger, had a clear and ambitious plan, the Schlieffen Plan. This strategy was intended to deal a quick, decisive blow to France, knocking it out of the war early, before shifting full attention to the Eastern Front against Russia. The plan depended on speed and surprise, a sweep through Belgium and into France, bypassing strong French defenses along the Franco-German border. However, the realities of war soon challenged this strategy. Major battles such as the Battle of the Marne in 1914 marked important turning points. Here, French and British forces managed to halt the German advance, effectively thwarting the Schlieffen Plan. This battle set the stage for a protracted and exhausting conflict, very different from the quick victory Germany had envisioned. Later in the war, battles such as Verdun and the Somme epitomized the brutal nature of trench warfare. The Battle of Verdun, initiated by the Germans in 1916, was intended to bleed France white, but turned into one of the longest and bloodiest battles in human history. Similarly, the Battle of the Somme, although primarily a British and French offensive, caused massive casualties on all sides and exposed the limitations of traditional tactics in the face of modern warfare. Assessment of the effectiveness of German military leadership paints a mixed picture. While initially excellent at planning, German generals such as von Moltke and later Erich Ludendorff faced major challenges. They struggled to adapt to the rapidly changing dynamics of warfare, particularly in dealing with the prolonged stalemate and war of attrition that came to define the Western Front. The inability of the German leadership to revise their strategies effectively in light of these new realities played a decisive role in their eventual downfall. Alongside strategy and military alliances, economic factors played a decisive role in shaping the course of World War I for Germany. Germany, at the start of the war, was an industrial powerhouse, with a powerful economy geared towards war production. However, as the war dragged on, the strain on resources and the economy began to show. The demands of a protracted conflict were immense, stretching the capabilities of even the most industrially advanced nations. One of the most damaging economic challenges Germany faced was the British naval blockade. The Royal Navy's blockade was incredibly effective, cutting Germany off from vital overseas resources and trade. This blockade not only starved the German economy of essential imports such as food and raw materials, but also severely disrupted Germany's ability to trade with neutral countries. The impact of this blockade was profound. This led to severe shortages of critical supplies, including food and raw materials needed to manufacture ammunition and war machines. The German population and army felt these shortages. On the home front, this led to food rationing and a decline in living conditions, severely affecting civilian morale. Furthermore, the economic strain exacerbated by the blockade significantly strained the German war effort. Lack of resources made it increasingly difficult to keep up with the needs of the army. This situation worsened with the entry of the United States into the war in 1917, as it strengthened the resources and economic power of the Allies. As we can see, economic factors were more than just the background to military conflict. They were central to the unfolding drama of World War I, profoundly affecting Germany's capacity to wage war effectively. As the war progressed, its impact reverberated not only on the battlefields, but also on the German home front. Life in Germany during the First World War was characterized by considerable hardships that deeply affected the civilian population and the morale of the troops. Prolonged exposure to the harsh realities of trench warfare, coupled with stagnation and high casualties on the front line, led to a significant decline in morale. The initial enthusiasm that marked the start of the war gave way to exhaustion and frustration as the war dragged on with no clear end in sight. Back in Germany, this decline in morale was reflected in increasing political and social unrest. The war's toll on the economy and daily life sparked strikes and protests as people grew tired of the constant conflict and its demands. This internal turmoil began to erode support for the war effort, further complicating the government's ability to sustain the war. The role of propaganda in the formation of public opinion was also important. While initially effective in rallying support for the war, as the reality of the conflict became apparent, the influence of the propaganda faded and skepticism grew among the population. The Allied forces, consisting primarily of the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and later the United States, displayed a mix of military forces and strategies. The British Royal Navy, for example, played a decisive role in establishing naval supremacy, effectively using its large fleet to impose a crippling blockade on Germany. This blockade limited German access to essential supplies and resources, gradually weakening their war effort. On the Western Front, French resilience and tactical evolution were essential. The French army, despite initial setbacks, adapted to trench warfare and introduced new technologies such as tanks and improved artillery. This adaptability proved decisive in countering German offensives. An important role was also played by Russia's involvement in the Eastern Front. Despite facing great challenges, the Russian army managed to tie up significant German forces, which hindered Germany's ability to concentrate its power on the Western Front. Perhaps one of the most game-changing moments was the entry of the United States into the war in 1917. The U.S. brought new troops and significant resources to the Allied cause. American involvement provided a much-needed morale boost and bolstered tired Allied forces. This influx of American soldiers and material tipped the balance sharply against Germany. Furthermore, coordination between Allied forces was a key factor in their success. Despite differing national interests and military doctrines, the Allies managed to create a united front against Germany. This unity was especially evident in the coordinated offensive in 1918, which eventually led to the breaking of the German lines and the armistice. In the First World War, the role of technological advances and their profound influence on war tactics is shown. This war was a sea of innovation, fundamentally changing the way battles were fought and, in turn, influencing Germany's military strategies. The First World War was marked by unprecedented technological innovations. The introduction of tanks, fighter jets and improved artillery redefined the battlefield. For Germany, these advances meant a shift from traditional military tactics to modern warfare. The German army, known for its discipline and efficiency, had to adapt quickly to this new era of warfare, where machine guns and poison gas changed the dynamics of frontline engagements. Perhaps the most significant change was in the nature of trench warfare. The Western Front, characterized by a network of trenches stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland, saw German troops locked in a brutal and stagnant war. The use of barbed wire, machine guns and artillery made frontal assaults almost suicidal. This static form of warfare drained resources and morale, challenging German military leaders to find effective strategies within these constraints. Germany also faced challenges in the air and at sea. The emergence of air combat, with reconnaissance aircraft and later fighter aircraft, gave a new dimension to warfare. The German Air Force, although initially dominant with ace pilots like the Red Baron, found itself increasingly challenged by Allied advances in aviation. At sea, the German U-boat campaign, although initially successful, eventually drew international ire, particularly from the United States, affecting the wider war effort. In the fate of Germany in the First World War, the role of leadership was essential. At the head of this leadership was Kaiser Wilhelm II, whose decisions significantly influenced the course of the war. Kaiser Wilhelm II, known for his impulsive nature and militaristic posture, led Germany with a fervent desire to establish its place as a world power. His aggressive foreign policy and unwavering belief in military might often overshadowed more cautious and diplomatic approaches. It was under his reign that Germany embarked on a naval arms race with Britain, heightening tensions and contributing to the hostile atmosphere of pre-war Europe. Another key figure in German leadership was General Erich Ludendorff. A master strategist, Ludendorff played a crucial role in the military decisions of the German Empire. His influence became particularly prominent following the Battle of Tannenberg, where his tactical genius was widely recognized. However, Ludendorff's later decisions, particularly his insistence on unrestricted submarine warfare, would provoke the United States into joining the war, a turning point that significantly disadvantaged Germany. The leadership styles of Wilhelm and Ludendorff, characterized by a preference for offensive strategies and underestimation of their adversaries, greatly influenced Germany's war strategy. Their decisions, often made with overconfidence in military strength, failed to account for the long-term implications of a protracted war. This overextension of military resources, coupled with a lack of sustainable economic and diplomatic strategies, ultimately contributed to Germany's exhaustion and eventual defeat. From the complex web of alliances that bound the nations together, to the central role of the German leadership under Kaiser Wilhelm II and General Ludendorff, each factor played its part in shaping the outcome of the war. Germany's initial military strategies, its economic weaknesses, and its domestic challenges all contributed to its eventual downfall. The leadership's overconfidence in military power and underestimation of the Allies, especially after the United States entered the war, further sealed Germany's fate. The history of Germany in the First World War is a testimony to the multifaceted nature of historical events. It reminds us that outcomes are often the result of a complex interplay of decisions, strategies, and unforeseen circumstances. The aftermath of World War I set the stage for the global landscape of the 20th century, laying the seeds for future conflicts, including the rise of World War II. This chapter of history serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of military ambition and the importance of balanced leadership and diplomacy. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.